Welcome, folks, to the latest installment of Sports with Joe and Ish. I'm the sports editor of the San Marcos Daily Record, Joe Vizzelli, and I'm here with our go-to man as far as the Rattlers go, Ishmael Johnson. Of course, with our show being taped on Sunday night, we won't be going into the game for the Texas State Bobcats, so they'll be playing UL Lafayette. We will dive into the Rattlers, who just came off of a very close loss to Floresville, and we'll also get into a preview of their upcoming match against Kerrville-Tivy, what will be the first game at the new San Marcos Toyota Stadium. But first, before we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit about last week's game against Floresville and Ish. We were both there for the game. Very close game. They tied up late, but ultimately just one mistake there by the defense that kind of hurt them in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it was going back and forth, and I actually brought it up. You know, this is kind of like watching mirror images of the same team. Their athletic quarterback versus David Hamilton. Kobe Wilkerson was the name of the Floresville quarterback, who made a lot of plays with his feet, looked to run a lot more than pass like David Hamilton does. And like you said, that one mistake from the defense, San Marcos was actually down 29-14 one time in the fourth quarter, and they came back. David Hamilton seemed like almost a one-man show. David Hamilton just kind of put the team on his back and brought them back. A great two-point conversion to tie it up, but a missed assignment on defense. One of the receivers went in motion, created an extra blocker on the right side for Floresville. Wilkerson took off down the right side, went down for 50 yards in the game-winning score. You hate seeing it end like that because they came back from seemingly a game that was done in about 7 minutes or so in the fourth quarter. But, just another disappointing loss, for the Rattlers. You can tell they all wanted that game. Coach Soto talked about his team just they didn't quit, and you always hear the cliche, like, oh, the guys didn't quit, but they didn't quit. That game looked over, and they really came back and had a chance to win if they could have stopped them on that last drive, which I believe was under a minute to go. So, you hate to see that loss. It was a tough, really, really, truly a tough loss, probably the toughest of the season for the team. But, you just got to rebound, especially with this game coming up.
Sure, and like you were saying, there was twice in that game where they're down by 14 points. They come all the way back. And I think you talked about it in your preview the week before is, the fact that we're starting to see with this offense, they've got so many weapons, whether or not it's David Hamilton. We all know what he's been able to do over the last 2 or 3 weeks, but Kavion Garner this week had a very good game. And I think we're starting to figure out that this San Marcos offense is going to keep them in every game. They can come back. They're very explosive with this pistol offense that they're running, the ability to score, 1 minute and a half. And so I think that's the thing that we all know. And it's going to be interesting as this season goes on because they're right in the playoff race. I mean, it's such a tight race, as obviously we all know the top four make the playoffs. And I believe they're, 2 games out of the playoffs right now.
Games.
But do you think that from what you've seen that they're very close to putting themselves in this playoff race and making it very interesting as we get to the last 3 or 4 games of the year?
I think they're 1 or 2 plays from being in it right now. Like, you look back at the Seguin game, the holding penalty that would have had David Hamilton's kickoff return for a touchdown, that negated that game, that lost in that game. The Kobe Wilkerson's play just last week, they're 2 plays from being in that 4th place spot right now, which is held by Seguin, Lockhart, and which is a 3-way tie between Seguin, Lockhart, and Floresville. San Marcos is in the last slot, just 2 games out of it. That last game against Lockhart, some things have to happen. A lot of the teams will knock each other out. And if they could win 2 to 3 of these last couple of games, they could very well. That last game against Lockhart could very well be the deciding factor if San Marcos goes to the playoffs, which I know a lot of supporters don't want to see that because that's what happened last season, and they were knocked out in the very last game. But unfortunately, through the way things have gone, it might set that up to be the Lockhart San Marcos game in Lockhart might decide the 4th playoff spot in District 27.
Sure, and the thing about that first half, the defense I thought had one of the stronger first halves that they have. I mean, we've noticed Trey Woot in the last couple of weeks from the safety position. We've noticed Jonas Nava, whether they're getting pressure, and I think you talked about that in your game story, the fact that they seem to be getting pressure. They didn't get as many sacks as maybe they deserved in that game, but they seem to be getting a lot of pressure. And do you think, maybe they're going to give up some yards, but this might be the defense that can make the plays, whether it's sacks, whether it's interceptions, something like that, to where that might be their best way of being effective on defense this season?
Yeah, I think so, because when you looked at that, all their games leading up to, I believe, until Alamo Heights, they had an interception a game, they had a turnover a game, and I think Alamo Heights and last week's game was the only game where they didn't have a sack. But when you look at those games, they had a lot of quarterback hurries. You know, we talked about Dalton Banks last week. He's just a big guy. He was able to avoid a lot of the pressure. Kobe Wilkerson's the same way. He was athletic enough to get out of it, but they pushed him out of the pocket. They made him make those plays, have to make those plays, or they were going to get in the backfield. I believe Isaiah Hernandez and Jonas Nava both had 2 quarterback hurries on the day. So, you know, they are able to make those plays. They're going to give up some yards, but it's similar to Texas State, the bend but don't break defense, and that's what you got to have. And sometimes that's enough to work.
Sure.
So I think that's going to be that's going to have to be this defense's MO the rest of this season.
Especially with an offense that can score 30, 35
exactly.
points a game. And it's not easy for a defense when your offense scores that quickly.
Yeah.
And especially with these up-tempo offenses, we've all seen it. It's either 3 plays are out or, you might go a long drive down the field, but it's really quick scores. So I think the defense, as we all know, they're going to be challenged. But I think Coach Soto, with the way that they played the last couple weeks, with the pressure that they're getting, he has to be impressed, because I think in the beginning of the season, they looked a little bit lost. They were trying to figure some things out, but I think they're starting to figure out the scheme, and it's really starting to work for them. Right now, we're going to throw it to a really short break. On the flip side, we're going to talk about the Rattlers' upcoming matchup against Kerrville-Tivy. Welcome back, folks, and now we're going to talk about the San Marcos Rattlers, who play this weekend against Kerrville-Tivy at the brand new San Marcos Toyota Rattler Stadium. And I think as a city, as a team with the Rattlers, they're excited about this opportunity to finally get their chance to play in the new stadium. This is obviously a special day for the city, with it being the first ever on-campus stadium in San Marcos.
Yeah, it's going to be big. It's been a year in the making, when they first announced it to when they first announced they were going to be working on it. They've seen delays. There's been some frustration, but it's here. It's in the season. They promised it this year, so it's happening, and it's going to be a really big occasion, and I'm really looking forward to it too.
Sure, and I must say before we get into the preview, if you have a chance on Friday night, head on out there, check out the game, get there beforehand. Mark Soto has done an excellent job with the stadium and the design. A lot of thought has gone into all the different features of it. I just got to see the new scoreboard that they put in the other day. It's quite impressive. And so if you have a chance on Friday night, drop whatever you're doing and head out there to see a game at this new stadium and what will be a significant day for the city. But let's, of course, go into Kerrville-Tivy, who the Rattlers play this weekend. And this is another opportunity for the Rattlers to this could be a big momentum swinging win potentially for them with the playoffs and with, I guess, 3 or 4 weeks left in the district season. Yeah,
Kerrville-Tivy is no joke. I believe they're 4-2 on the season. Their only loss in district is to Bernie Champion, who's undefeated on the season. And if there was a game to play in Rattler Stadium to have an extra motivation and extra fuel, it'd be against one of the top teams in the district like Kerrville-Tivy. And they're going to have to use a lot of the momentum to fuel them, because like I said, Kerrville Tivy is no joke. They were, I believe, a quarterfinalist last season, or I believe a second-round team in the playoffs last season of the state playoffs. So, like you said, it could be a huge momentum shift. And I think I want to go back to Coach Soto's post-game quote after the Floresville game last Friday, where he said that more often than not, David Hamilton's the best player on the field. He's going to need to be the best player on the field in both teams. Kerrville Tivy has a lot of great players. Hamilton's going to need to be the best player on the field this Friday against Kerrville Tivy.
And you think with the competitiveness that David Hamilton has, he's going to really get up for this game.
Yeah.
He knows how big this is for his team, for the city, and he's just one of those big time players that we always kind of talk about. And whether or not there's a talented player on the Antlers, he's going to want to be that really, he's going to want to have a big impact in the game. And I get the sense that this might be a really big game for him, and with this opportunity coming up.
I think Coach Soto is going to have to hammer into the team that, everybody except for the community around San Marcos counts this as, like an upset, like an upset special. They're the underdog. He's going to have to hammer it look, everybody's pointing against us. He's going to have to play that type of card. People are against us. We got to use this to swing this momentum of this season around. He's going to have to use that to fuel the players, because I think the players are going to know. They're going to be like, okay, Kerrville Tivy's 4-2. A lot of schools and a lot of media, be like, oh man, Kerrville Tivy, they're so good. Well, they're going to be hearing that all week, and Coach Soto's going to have to hammer that in. I think I personally like when coaches say oh, look what so and so wrote about Kerrville Tivy. Oh man, so and so's predicting this big of a win. It fuels the players okay, we'll prove them wrong. We'll do this. So I think it's going to be a big game. I think it's going to be a chance for them to do it.
Sure. And the other reminder that I want to have, Wednesday at 6:15 p.m. There's going to be a ribbon cutting out at the stadium that night. Thursday as well. They're going to have the freshmen, I believe it's purple and white teams. That'll actually be kind of officially the first game in the new stadium. So we want to, of course, mention that. We're going to have a special section on Friday kind of devoted to this, to the stadium opening. So you want to check that out. But also you want to take a chance to go out to the ribbon cutting on Wednesday, or check out the freshman games on Thursday night. But back to the game, I think the thing that impressed me last week about David Hamilton was the fact that when he had to throw the ball, he gets that completion to Preston Natal. I believe it was on second or third down, 30-yard completion, maybe the best throw that he's had all year. And I would like to see that a little bit more. And I think we talked about it after the game. We'd like to see that a little bit more. And maybe that's an opportunity against Tivy to – maybe they'll be kind of suspecting that he's going to run the ball, and it might be an opportunity down the field to throw the ball. Yeah, I think
Kerrville Tivy is going to be looking to stop the run first. Obviously, they're going to see the scouting footage. They're going to look at that East Central first game and be like, okay, this guy's going to want to run. But we saw against Floresville, we've seen against Memorial that he can throw the ball. He has a very good arm. I've seen him in practice hurl it about 50. He has a very confident arm when he has time. I just think he has to learn that, he's still developing quarterback. It's his first season as a quarterback. I think he has to learn that when that first rusher gets in the pocket, keep his eyes downfield. He can use his legs to free himself up for a couple more seconds, but keep his eyes downfield, because one thing that we're noticing is that he likes to tuck in and run. He is athletic, but he likes to tuck in and run a little bit prematurely. I think against Kerrville Tivy, a team that's going to be scouting his running ability, he's going to have to look downfield a lot and probably trust his arm a little bit more.
Sure, and we've talked about the weapons that they got. Preston Natal was an opportunity. He got, a nice touchdown throw. And like we were saying last week, I think he's got an arm.
Yeah.
He just needs to trust it a little bit more. And it's so easy when you're as athletic as he is to it's second nature. You want to run the ball on every opportunity. And I think that's going to be the next step in his development. And maybe whether it's, the next 3 or 4 games or next year, we're going to see it. And that's going to be when we really see David Hamilton be very tough to stop, and this Rattler offense be very tough to stop. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in this week to Sports with Joe and Ish. Of course, you can always check out the show. It'll be up on Wednesday on sanmarcosrecord.com, and we appreciate you guys tuning in every week to check out the show. So for Joe and Ish, we're signing off.